All right, I see that a couple people have already finished it, so let's see if we can do this. Is there anybody who wants to offer to work it out for me? No offers? Okay, I guess I have to do it myself.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
Wait, you two people already did, right? I'd like to see somebody who hasn't done one yet. Anybody willing? I'll help you. Okay, then I guess I'll just do it. This is that strange thing that has two inequality signs in it, which we call a double inequality or a compound inequality. Compound meaning more than one, like a compound sentence has two things going on. This has two things going on. This is telling you really two things. It's telling you that the -5 is less than 2x plus 3, and also that the 2x plus 3 is less than or equal to 9. And so this is an and situation, so it's where these two things overlap. The way we solve it is by our purpose, what we're trying to do is to get in the middle just a plain x. So how do we get a plain x in the middle? Well, I have 2x plus 3, so the first thing I'm going to do, just like in an equation, I'm going to subtract 3. Now, here's where you have to be careful. You're really doing two questions at once. So not only must you subtract -3 on the left side, you also have to subtract -3 on the right side. The reason you're doing that is because really, if you look at it, you're doing this problem just with this part, and then you're doing this problem with just this part. But since they're basically both the same steps, we're doing it in a shortcut by doing both at the same time. Okay, so at this end, I have a -5 minus 3, which gives me -8. That stays less than. These always are less, have to end up being less than signs. Though you don't have to worry, they will be. This will be a 2x. The 3's canceled out. And over here, I have less than or equal to 9 minus 3, which is 6. And now I have a 2x in the middle, and what I really want is a plain x, so I have to divide by 2. But again, once I divide by 2 in the middle, I have to do it at either end. And notice, I don't have to change this direction of signs because I'm dividing by a positive number. So I get -4 is less than x is less than or equal to 3. And that's actually what you would, in your delta math, that's what you would type into your answer. You have to type in this whole thing when it asks the answer. You put in your -4. Well, the less than sign is actually something that is on your keyboard. It's above the comma. They type in the x. This less than or equal sign will be in the problem. You'll be able to choose that, and then you'll put in the 3. In terms.
Okay, Professor, where you did the negative divided, the 2 divided by -8, the sign
Wait,
is supposed
again,
to remain
who am I
the
talking
same?
to? Who am I talking
This is Stacia.
Okay, Stacia, yeah.
Okay, so right there where we divided 2 divided by -8, right?
Well, really, we say -8 divided by 2.
Yeah.
You always start in the top and go to the bottom, okay?
Yeah, isn't the sign supposed to change because we're dividing by a negative number?
What am I dividing by?
Oh, +2 divided by
Right, I divide by
-8.
what's on the bottom. So
Oh,
divided by a positive number, so it doesn't change.
oh, okay.
good question to ask because it points out where you could make a mistake.
Yeah, always make the mistakes there.
Okay, you're always dividing by the bottom, not by the top.
Okay.
Okay? All right. On the number line, what we would do, remember how we look at this on the number line? We go to the point -4, and then we also go to the point 3. Those are the two important numbers, the -4 and the 3. And we notice at -4 it says less than, which means it's an open circle. And at the 3 it says less than or equal to, which means it's a filled in circle over there. And then we just stretch a line from one to the other. And this is exactly what you would do on the number line there. You would go to the -4. You put your cursor right on -4 on your number line, and then stretch it until you get to 3, and then drop it. Now, what will happen is both of those things on your delta math will be filled in circles. You'll have to click on the -4 circle to make it an open circle. If you would be wanted to put this in interval notation, the interval is starting at -4 and it's going until 3. So -4, remember we always start on the left and work our way to the right. The start is -4. In this case, it doesn't go all the way to infinity, it stops at 3. At the -4, it's an open circle, so that would be a parentheses, whereas at the 3, it's a filled in circle, so that would be a bracket. Are there any questions about that?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes. Who has
I
a
don't get the bracket. I don't need Annabelle this. I don't get the
Oh,
bracket
Annabelle,
or the
yes.
part.
Were you marked absent on this class? Annabelle, yes. I have you marked absent. So but you're here, so let me change that.
Yes, I'm here.
Were you here the past 2 times? Because I have you absent already.
No, yeah, I watched the recording though.
So you were out for 2 times.
Yes.
Okay, I have that correct. I just want to make sure. Okay. So that has nothing to do with the problem. Okay, now we ask the question.
Okay, I have 2 questions. All right, so the bracket and the parentheses. So when it's a positive is a bracket.
The bracket and the parentheses has nothing to do with the positive or negative.
Okay.
It has to do with the type of inequality sign it is. It could be, so you could have a bracket with a positive, you could have a bracket with a negative. You could have a parentheses with a positive, you could have a parentheses with a negative. What you look at is the inequality sign. The first inequality with a -4, between the -4 and the x, that's just a plain less than. It doesn't have that extra little line underneath it. It just means
Okay.
less than. That means on the number line, you make it an open circle. But at the 3 one, between the x and the 3, that between that, I don't have just a plain less than, I have a less than or equal to. So when I go to the 3, that has to be a filled in circle. Is that clear?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. All right, so now let's do another problem. The last couple of problems we're going to do happen to be absolute value equations. So I'm going to give you 2 absolute value equations. I'll do it on this side. Number 1 will be 13 equals the absolute value of 3a minus 5. And the second one is, I'm just want to make sure, 4 plus 4 absolute value 4x plus 5 equals 11. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to work out these, and then we'll talk about how to put those on the Delta Math, as how to put the answers properly on Delta Math. Who is that?
Stacia?
Okay, Stacia, yes. Thank you. Okay, so you'll do number 1, and since I got a question about number 2, I will do number 2, okay?
Okay.
So 13 equals the absolute value of 3a minus 5. What did you do first?
Okay, so first I switched them. I put 3x minus 5 equals 13.
Okay, she didn't like the fact that the absolute value was on the right side of the number. So she feels more comfortable doing this, and you can always do this with an equation. If you have x equals 2, you can just turn it to 2 equals x. Or if you have 7 equals y, you can make it y equals 7. So this is perfectly all right. It'll look more the way we've had it, okay?
Okay, so I went ahead and removed the absolute signs.
Right?
So 3a minus 5 equals 13.
Okay. What did you
Okay.
look at first before you removed the absolute value sign?
What did I look at?
Remember what we have to look at this number? What do we have to make?
Yes, I looked if it was positive or negative.
Right, perfect. The number 13 is a positive number, so I can go further. If this
Yeah.
would have been a negative 13,
Then it would be no solution.
there would be no solution. Perfect. Okay. Did you do
Okay,
anything
so-
else from besides the 3a minus 5 equals 13?
Yes, so first I go ahead and put 3a minus 5 equals positive 13 and 3a minus 5 equals negative 13.
Remember, when you have an absolute value equation, once you have your absolute value all by itself, you have to break it up into 2 equations. One where it's the positive number, one where it's a negative number. If this starts out as a negative number, it can't work, no solution. Otherwise, you have to come up with 2 solutions. Okay, what did you get?
So
Olivia?
I went ahead now and I write 3a equals 13 plus 5. I changed the negative to a positive because of the equal
She's
sign.
doing what's called the transposition method, where she's just bringing something to the other side. Otherwise, you just do plus 5 and plus 5 to both sides, okay?
Yeah, so I went ahead now and I said 3a equals to 18, sorry. So 3a over 3a and 18 over 3a.
Do I put the 8 in the
3
bottom?
minus 3 cancel out 3a. So left 3 cancel out the 3 left me with a. So it will be 3 divided by 18 or 18 over 3, which gives me 6.
Okay. By the way, this is 18 divided by 3.
Yeah,
You always
18.
don't say 3 divided by 18 because
Yeah,
that,
18 divided
okay?
by 3.
And again, that's just language. I know you know what you're doing, but let's try and be precise in our language, okay? So you got
Yes.
one answer to be 6. And
Yes.
then what did you do?
Okay, so I go to the other side and I write 3a equals to negative 13. Again, I change the sign from a negative to plus 5. So again, I have 3a equals to negative 13 plus 5 gives me negative 8. So 3a over 3 and 8 over 3, which there's no where I can simplify. So the answer I left with was negative 8 over 3.
Perfect. Okay, let's talk about how this would look when you want to put it into Delta Math. And this word is specifically when you have two answers. It'll probably look something like this. It'll say A equals, and then you'll have a box. Now, in any box, you can only put one answer. Here's where you have to be careful. Right next to the answer, in the lower right-hand side, you'll see something like this. This is in the Delta map. Something looks like this, which looks like a keyboard. And then there'll be a plus sign and a sign. I think they're in circles. This keyboard thing you click on when you want some special symbols. If you don't see a symbol that you want, you can go to this and it'll give you either a calculator, it'll give you something to work with. You really don't have to use that. But when you want to put in two answers, you must click on this plus button. What happens when you click on that plus button is that this single box will change to these braces things where there will be two boxes. The plus there is to indicate you're giving more than one answer. Do not put two answers in the same box. If you do, it'll mark it wrong. Once you have your two boxes, then in one box you put in the 6, and in the second box you type in -8. By the way, it's the slanted line that's at the bottom with the comma. It's a forward slash, it's not a backward slash. And then you put in the 3. And that's how you put in both your answers. Yeah, Emma, you have a question.
If you also type in your first answer in the box and then put a comma, that'll give you an option to do a second box.
Oh, okay. Where did you put the comma? In the box or outside the box?
In the box after my first answer.
Well, I didn't know it did that. I know that. Okay, so thank you for letting me know. But you can only put one answer in a box.
Correct.
Okay, so this is just where we have to be careful about putting things in right. Again, if you run into a problem, just send me a picture. I'll try and figure it out. We should be okay. So we have now one more problem that we want to do. Does anybody want to do number 2 for me, or should I?
I can do it. Jonathan.
Who's I?
Jonathan.
Okay, Jonathan. Okay. We're gonna, and Emma, just pipe in where you have your problems. Okay.
Okay, so
I keep talking to Emma because Emma is very expressive, but I want everybody. This is a interactive class. The best way to do these problems and to do this, be in this class, is to think that you're in a real class in school. And if you have a question, make sure it's answered before we go further. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and put in the second question. And Jonathan, you're going to go on, right?
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to write the problem over here. We have 4 plus the absolute value of 4x plus 5 equals 11.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to do first?
The first thing I did was subtract 4 from both sides.
Right. If you remember, when you have an absolute value equation, You can't do anything with it until you have that absolute value all by itself. We call it isolating the absolute value. So there's this 4 that's outside the absolute value. You have to get rid of it. So you subtracted 4 from both sides.
So I'm left with absolute value of 4x plus 5 equals 7. Okay.
Okay.
And then I broke it down. I said 4x plus
Before you
5.
broke it down, what did you look at?
Just the absolute value and the answer, like 7. So for example, it would be like 4x plus 5 equals 7, then 4x plus 5 equals negative 7.
Right. And the reason we can do it is because this number is positive. Don't forget, look at that number. But when do you look at it? Not over here, but when you have your absolute value all by itself, when all you have is an absolute value, look, just glance at that number and make sure it's positive, because if it's negative, you can stop right there. Okay, so you're writing, we can go further. You're writing 2 equations. You're writing 4x plus 5 equals 7, and 4x plus 5 equaling negative 7.
Yeah.
Okay,
So for the left side, 4x plus 5 equals 7, I subtracted 5 from both sides. It left me with 4x equals to 2.
right.
I divided by 4, and x equals 2 over 4, or 1/2.
Generally, if you can reduce the fraction, you should. I don't know if they give it, mark it wrong if you didn't reduce it, though.
Mark it wrong if you don't reduce it.
They did, did they say, did they mark it wrong if you put 2 over 4?
Yeah, because on Delta Math, they ask you to simplify.
Oh, if they ask you to simplify, then you'd have to go to 1/2. They're not going to be difficult fractions to deal with. And this is the only place you, Emma, this is the only place you would end up having a fraction.
Yeah, I
was
was just confused.
that last step.
I got there even. I just thought
Okay.
the answer had to be a whole number.
So
I'm
for
sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Okay. Jonathan, you want to go on further
Yes.
with the second one?
So the 4x plus 5 equals negative 7. I subtracted 5 from both sides. Then leave me with 4x equals to negative 12. I divided by 4, and x leaves me with negative 3.
Okay, so our 2 answers are 1/2, and here would be your box. You would have your 2 boxes with the, for your answer. And remember, when you want to put in the 1/2, you have to put in the 1, the / and the 2. It won't print it like that. It'll print it like a regular fraction. And the other one, let's see, you put in your -3. And that's how you would do that problem. And I think that,
Professor,
yes,
okay, in a sense where we are on delta maths, right? And it gives us a negative number. There's no sign there
you don't know
that says no.
how, yeah, and it gives you a negative number. So what should you, what's your question?
No, I'm asking, all right, say for example, the 4x plus the 5, right, equals a negative 7 on delta math. No, I'm just giving you an example.
Okay, so then your answer, you would either, they'll give you a choice. It'll have to give you a choice of either no solution or this symbol. The symbol, it looks like a 0, but it's got a line through it. It happens to be a Greek letter. I forgot which Greek letter it is.
Okay.
But this symbol is the same as saying no solution.
Okay.
Or the other way is just to leave your thing blank. There's no answer.
Oh.
But don't worry about it. They'll give you the option as to say no solution.
Okay.
Okay? I think we're finished with these examples. I think this is pretty.
Wait. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Question.
Not to erase it. Just give me 1 second. I'm just copying.
Oh, okay, sure. Can I erase it yet?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. All right, so this is, let me just reiterate what I said about the quiz and the test. Now, the due date is on Tuesday before class. But with all my homeworks and all the tests and all the quizzes that I give you on Delta Math, I do have a late date where if you do the thing late, you get 90% of the credit. I'll do that even with the tests and the quizzes. So please try to do it on time. But if you're late with an assignment, you'll still get 90% of your credit. So please make sure that you do it even if it's late. Again, so far there have been 3 homeworks on Delta Math, and starting after class today, there will be quiz 1 on Delta Math as well. Not all our tests are going to be on Delta Math, but a few of them will be. And I just want to go one step further. We're going to be finished with chapter 1 today, and I'm just going to start talking a little bit about chapter 2 and what we're going to be doing in chapter 2. Reminder, no class tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day off. The college is closed. It happens to be Abraham Lincoln's birthday, and we have no classes. So tomorrow you can sleep a little bit later on Friday, which is nice to know. Just to talk about a possible application of equations. Applications are real life situations where we can write an equation to solve that situation. And throughout the term, we're going to be having different problems, different working out, as I call them, applications or word problems. And I'm not going to do a lot in one time. I'll always do one, give you a little bit of space, because people seem to have trouble with the word problems. Now, one of the type of word problems that we are required to know how to deal with is something that has to do with solving rectangles. Now, a rectangle happens to be something that looks like this. It's not a square, because a square has all 4 sides equal, but it has 2 sides equal and the other 2 sides equal. If you look around your room, well, you could just look at my board. If you could see my whole board is a rectangle. Most of your bedrooms or classrooms are also rectangle. This is solving word problems. April, this is rectangle word problems. Let's call it that. And it's still part of chapter 1 because we're going to be using an equation. What are we going to want to find out about this rectangle? Well, today we're going to be talking about the perimeter of the rectangle. A little later in the course, we'll talk about the area of the rectangle. But today we're talking about something called perimeter. Now, the perimeter of any straight-sided figure, whether it's a triangle or a rectangle, or even if you had, let's say, an octagon, let's say the stop sign is an octagon. The perimeter means how much is it all around? And in terms of a rectangle, the formula for the perimeter, we can either do it by formula or we can do it just by looking at it, is equal to 2L plus 2W. L standing for the length of the perimeter, and W standing for the width of the perimeter. Now, why is the formula 2L plus 2W? Because when you have a rectangle, you have 4 sides. 2 of them are length, and 2 of them are W. And if you add them all up, you'll have W plus L plus W plus L, which adds up to 2L plus 2W. Now, usually, as again, you could do the questions we're going to have using the formula, or the way I really prefer doing it is by just looking at the picture. Whenever I have a question that has to do with a rectangle, I draw myself a picture. So here's a question. The length of a rectangle, I'm going to write this down. The length of the rectangle is 2 more than the width. And the perimeter is 80. And the question is, find the dimensions of the rectangle. So in order to solve a word problem, we have to understand what's going on, what the words mean, and we have to be able to write the question that is written in English language in algebra language. We have to write an equation for it. Okay, so here's my picture of what's going on. I'm going to show you how I like to do this type of problem. Here's what I'll do. I saw that it's talking about the length of a rectangle. I draw myself a rectangle. We're told that the length is 2 more than the width. So usually the width is a smaller side and the length is a larger side. So the width, we don't know what it is. Let's call the width X. If this is my smallest side, I'm calling this X. Here's my width. But if this one is X, so is this one, because the opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. Okay, so the width is we don't know anything about. But we do know something about the length, because they told me the length is 2 more than the width. What does 2 more mean? What do we do when we have 2 more?
You multiplying it.
Are we multiplying? What does more stand? What operation are we doing when we're doing more? If I have $5 more, what am I doing?
Addition.
I'm doing addition. The word more means to add. If I said it was 2 less, then I would subtract. When do I multiply? When it says either 2 times or double. Usually the word times is actually used, which means multiplication. But more means add, less means subtract. Now here's my length. 2 more means I take my width, which is X, and add 2 to it. And I get X plus 2. It would have been equally correct to write 2 plus X. That's fine also. Where you have to be especially careful is with the word less. Let's finish this problem, then I'll talk about what happens if there's a word left in your problem. Now we said the length is 2 more than the width, so that's x plus 2. But if this side is x plus 2, so is the opposite side. That's what makes something a rectangle. The opposite sides are equal. There are 2 that are equal, the 2 across from each other, and these 2 are equal. Now we go to the fact that the perimeter of this rectangle is 80. Now the perimeter means everything added up. I'll tell you a real life situation where you might be interested in finding the perimeter of something. Let's say you had a backyard and your backyard is a rectangle and you want to put a fence around your backyard, around the 4 sides. If you want to know how much fencing you need, you have to find the perimeter, because that's telling you how much it is when you go all around. So the perimeter in this case is, well, let's see what the perimeter is going to be. The perimeter is going to be the x plus the x plus 2. I'm adding all the 4 sides plus the x. I'm going 1, 2, 3. I'm up to here, plus x plus 2. This has to equal 80 because the perimeter is 80, means all 4 sides are adding up to 80. Well, now I have an equation that I have to solve, and I know how to solve an equation. I add all the like terms. There's an x, and plus x is 2x, plus another x is 3x, plus another x is 4x. I'm getting 4x over here. And the other 2 like terms are this 2 and this 2, which add up to 4. So I get 4x plus 4 equals 80. And I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I'm going to go over here, which will leave me 4x equals 76, because 80 minus 4 is 76. And then I'll divide by 4. And 76 divided by 4 is how much?
19.
19. It turns out that my x is equal to 19. Remember, x stands for the width. And the x plus 2 will be the 19 plus 2, which is 21. The length is 21. Now notice the question asks find the dimensions. The word dimensions means find both the length and the width. So I could either say that the width is 19 and the length is 21, or sometimes they write the answer like this: 19 with a little x and a 21. This means 19 by 21. You've probably seen that type of thing if you went to in a store and you were buying a rug and you could see your rug is 19 by 21. It means the dimensions, the length, the width is 19 and the length is 21. So that's how you would solve, and either you could write your answer this way or this way. You think you're ready to try one on your own?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a problem to try. Okay, I'll write the problem on the board. In this case, here's my problem. I don't want to erase this yet if somebody's still writing it. The width of a rectangle, I'm not writing the word of a rectangle. The width of the rectangle is 5 less than the length. And the perimeter is 70. I want you again to find the dimensions. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Let me just mention what it means when, can I erase this now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just, since we're talking about terminology, we mentioned that more means that you add. You do X plus. When you have less in the problem, you have to do X minus. 5 less means you have to subtract 5. And here's where you have to be very careful. It says the width is 5 less than the length. Even though you're saying the number 5 first, when it comes to subtraction, when it comes to less than, it's the 5 that's being subtracted. You cannot say 5 minus X, you have to write X minus 5. 5 less means the number 5 is being subtracted. So the order in which we say things in regular English language is not the order of mathematical language. And we have to be very careful to make sure we've got the right order of our variables and our numbers. Okay, so I'm not going to give, now I'm going to give you time to work this out. Can everybody see the problem? Do this together. Again, we're told that the width of the rectangle is 5 less than the length. So I want to draw my little picture. I like to draw a picture. So the width is 5 less than the length. So the thing that we don't know anything about the length, so let's call the length X. And the width is 5 less than the length, so the width is going to be X minus 5. Remember, you have to write the X first and then subtract the 5. Subtract means minus 5. It's the 5 is being subtracted from the X. Now, just like we did before, this is my length and this is my width. So this will also be X minus 5, and this will also be X. So now I have all 4 sides of my rectangle. So I add them all up. X minus 5 plus X minus 5 plus X. I've added all 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. That's all going to add up to 70 because my perimeter is 70. Combining the like terms, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 X's, so that's 4X. Negative 5 and negative 5 gives me negative 10 equals 70. And now I just have to solve this equation, so I'll add 10 to both sides, which will give me 4X equals 80. And then I'm going to divide by 4. Let me put it over here. I have 4X equals 80. And I divide by 4 to get X equals 20. That means the X is 20. That's the length. The width was X minus 5, so that's 20 minus 5, which is 15. So my dimensions are the length is 20 and the width is 15. Again, you could write it separately, but specifically say what is the length and what is the width, or you could put it like this, 20 by 15. I hope most of you got that correct. Very often on the midterm and on the final as well, you will see a problem similar to this. Okay, we have really finished the material for chapter 1. We're going to be starting with chapter 2 next lesson, which is going to be on Tuesday. And chapter 2 is about graphing of linear equations, graphing lines. Now, I suggest that you get some graph paper if you don't have it, because it's much easier to understand what graphing is all about if you actually do it on graph paper. It's much clearer and easier to understand. So that's where we're going to be starting on Tuesday. Again, your homework, if you haven't completed all 3 homeworks, make sure you complete all 3 homeworks on Delta Math. And don't forget, before Tuesday of class, that you do the first quiz, which is again on Delta Math. Don't forget also that once you sit down, you're going to have a total of 45 minutes. I don't think you'll need the whole 45 minutes. It's just 10 questions. You'll have 45 minutes to complete it. Again, try to keep in mind the suggestions I did today when we reviewed as to how to put your answers in Delta Math. Is there anybody who wants to say anything or has any questions?
There's no specific graphing